algebra, alcohol, Admiral, cotton, algorithm. Every one of them reached English from Arabic, because for 600 years, the largest state on earth spoke it. In 622, that state does not exist. No army, no capital, no territory outside a single city. A century later, it runs from the Atlantic to the Indus. It takes Persia whole, Egypt, Syria, North Africa, and Spain, and it beats the Roman army twice. But this is not a film about how it grew. It is about what happens after it stops, because the caliphate keeps its name for 3 centuries after it stops governing anything. So we are going to run the whole thing on one map, 1 year at a time, from the Hijra to the Mongol army outside Baghdad. Rome and Persia have just fought each other for 26 years, from 602 to 628. Heraclius wins that war, but he wins it with an empty treasury and a Levant garrisoned by nobody. Persia does worse. 14 kings hold the Sasanian throne between 628 and 632. The last of them is a boy whose governors have already stopped sending him taxes. So the empire that falls in this film is already falling before anybody attacks it. In 622, Muhammad and his followers leave Mecca for Medina, about 340 kilometers north. That journey is year 1 of a calendar still in use today, and on this map, it is year 1 of everything. By 632, the peninsula answers to one authority, but that authority has no capital city. So the first war this state fights is not against Rome or Persia. It is against its own tribes. The Ridda Wars run through 632 and 633, and they end with the peninsula unified by force. In July 634, an Arab army beats a Byzantine one at Ajnadayn in what is now southern Israel. 3 months later, the same expansion loses badly on a bridge over the Euphrates. 4,000 men die, the commander is trampled by a war elephant, and the survivors swim. In August 636, the 2 armies meet again on the Yarmouk, and they fight for 6 days. Arab chronicles put the Byzantine army at 100,000, and modern historians at 15 to 50,000. Byzantium does not lose Syria in one afternoon, but by deciding not to come back. In November of the same year, a second army breaks the Sasanians at Qadisiyyah, 600 kilometers east. Nobody knew where that battlefield was until 2024, when declassified satellite imagery placed it. In January 637, Ctesiphon falls, but the Sasanian court runs east and keeps running. Jerusalem goes in 638, but it goes by treaty rather than by storm. Egypt goes between 639 and 642, and Egypt is the grain. The last Sasanian king dies at Merv in 651, 4 centuries of empire ending with a fugitive. In 655, a fleet that did not exist 15 years earlier destroys the Roman one off Lycia. 200 ships beat 500, and the Mediterranean stops being a Roman lake. By 655, this state holds 6,400,000 square kilometers. Rome needs 4 centuries to reach that size. This takes 23 years from one city. Then in 656, the Caliph Uthman is killed in Medina, and the expansion stops for 5 years. The first fitna is a civil war, but it is fought between the same armies that took Syria and Persia. In 661, the capital moves to Damascus, and it never goes back to Arabia. In 670, they found Kairouan in the Maghreb, but from there, Africa is taken from a base rather than a raid. Every book will tell you an Arab fleet besieged Constantinople from 674 to 678. But one historian calls that siege a myth, and another moves it to 667, so we are drawing it faintly. What is not disputed is 717, when 1,800 ships anchor off the same walls. The walls hold, Greek fire burns the fleet, and the Christian crews of the relief ships defect. Then the winter of 718 does the rest, and the army eats its own animals. On the 15th of August 718, the siege lifts, and no Arab army ever sees that city again. Every other frontier on this map moves for another century. That one does not move for 700 years. In 711, a force crosses from Africa into Spain and destroys the Visigothic army at the Guadalete. In the same year, a second force lands at the mouth of the Indus, 6,000 kilometers away. Toledo falls in 711 and Multan in 712, and no state has been administered at that width before. At its peak in 720, it covers 11 million square kilometers, or 15 million, depending on the source. On the 10th of October, 732, a raiding army meets Charles Martel between Poitiers and Tours. The textbooks call that the limit of the expansion, but Narbonne stays in Muslim hands until 759. The first territory this empire actually loses is not lost to Rome or to the Franks. In 740, the Berbers of the Maghreb revolt over being taxed as though they had not converted. The central and western Maghreb are gone by 743, and they are never retaken. In July 751, an Abbasid army meets a Tang army at Talas, 4,000 kilometers east of Tours. Everyone tells you that Chinese prisoners taught the Arabs to make paper after that battle, but paper fragments from the 4th and 5th centuries have been dug out of Central Asia 300 years early. So Talas matters for a duller reason. It is the year Tang China stops moving west. The revolution that ends the Umayyads does not start in Damascus. It starts in Merv, 3,000 kilometers east. On the 25th of January 750, Marwan II loses the last Umayyad army at the Great Zab. He has the bridge behind him cut to stop his own men retreating, and they drown in front of him. One Umayyad reaches Spain in 756, and from that year, this is 2 states, not one. In 762, the Abbasids build a new capital on the Tigris and call it the City of Peace. For 50 years it works, and the caliph who rules from it is the one everybody has heard of. But between 861 and 870, 4 caliphs reign at Samarra, and all 4 are killed or deposed. Their own Turkish guard does it, so the men who protect the caliph are the ones removing him. Egypt goes its own way in 868, Ifriqiya in 909, but neither is retaken. A slave revolt takes Basra in 871 and holds the south for 14 years. In 930, raiders sack Mecca during the pilgrimage and carry the Black Stone away. The caliphate cannot get it back by force, but it buys it back 22 years later. Then, in 945, a Persian dynasty takes Baghdad, and the caliph keeps the title and loses the taxes. So the map keeps saying caliphate for 3 more centuries, but from 945, it is saying a name. In 1055, the Seljuks take Baghdad, but the caliph crowns the man who has just taken it. Jerusalem falls to a crusade in 1099, and Baghdad sends nothing, because Baghdad has nothing to send. On the 29th of January 1258, a Mongol army closes on the city from 3 sides. The city surrenders on the 10th of February, and the last Abbasid caliph is killed on the 20th. Hulegu claims 200,000 dead. The chronicles say up to 2 million, and every figure is a guess. And you have heard that the Tigris ran black with the ink of the books thrown into it. But that account is written 3 centuries later, and the large libraries reopen within 2 years. The line survives in Cairo from 1261 as a title with no territory until 1517. 636 years from one city in the Hijaz to an outline on the Tigris. If I have drawn a frontier wrong, or taken a date from the wrong side, name it in the comments.